Today we're here at the Imari Lounge at the Dammam Hotel to talk to Patrick Schwerdtfeger, who recently attended the Social Media Masters Forum in Bahrain. Thank you, Patrick, for spending some time with us this morning.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
What conclusions would you draw about social media in Bahrain, having attended the recent Social Media Masters Forum here?
In the Social Media Masters Forum, I thought it was fascinating, in particular the government support of this,
Right.
Which is something that we don't have this in America. I mean, I'm sure we do probably at some level, but not at a level that I would be aware of. And here, the local businesses and individuals and government organizations actually have an ability to get this type of formal training in a way that's sponsored by the government. I think it's fantastic.
How focused do you think people are on the content, their strategy? Do they have the sort of effective planning in place that you think for an SME to be effective digitally?
You know, they're getting there, but it's slow. And this is not a discussion where, for example, people in Bahrain may be behind or ahead of people in other parts of the world. Everyone's trying to figure this out. Even the big companies, and indeed governments around the world, are trying to figure this out.
Is it an element of trial and error to get to the point that you need to be? And also, do you need to sort of go outside your own organization to really get that input that you need to develop an effective strategy?
In other words, having some sort of consulting support
Consulting
from elsewhere.
or just networking?
Yeah. Well, certainly, like I said before, I think the vast majority of people who are trying these strategies, it's failing. It's not generating the results.
Right.
And this is a function of people not knowing what to do. They just don't know. So they just think having a Facebook page on the internet, well, now their business should explode. And of course, that's not the case. So looking at people not only outside of the local economy, or even the industry that you're a part of. I mean, really just looking out into the world as a whole. So the question is, who can deliver those case histories?
Right. Because
it's those case histories which will spur ideas.
Is there such a thing as digital marketing, or is it just marketing in a digital environment?
Well, there was digital marketing as a silo,
Right.
but today it's completely immersed. Yeah. In other words, people used to think in terms of, oh, well, this is my online strategy, this is my offline strategy. Turns out that the strategies that are most successful today are the ones that actually integrate those two. And so when I work with companies or speak for organizations, one of the things I always come back to is don't think about marketing in a perpetual sense. Think about it as a series of campaigns that may all be linked. But a campaign is, here's a message that comes out with a call to action.
Right.
Here's where that call to action is monetized or somehow recorded. And so now you can very easily calculate the ROI of this particular campaign.
Right.
And there may be 5 or 10 of these stacked on top of each other or one after the other. But at least in every case, you can calculate the ROI, and then the benefit comes in calibrating it afterwards.
Right.
Because you mentioned something earlier, I forget how you worded it, but it related to whether or not what you're trying to do online actually works.
Right.
And I would say that maybe 80% of what I try fails. Okay. I mean, just to be really candid.
Right.
But this is the foundation of my book.
Right.
Is that I've tried hundreds of different things.
Right.
Most of them haven't worked.
Okay.
Or how often has this happened where we have a brilliant idea and we're like, this is a great idea. This is going to work, right? Maybe we're taking a shower in the morning and
Right.
it comes to us and this is the answer.
Right.
And so we implement it, we put it into practice, and then it falls short.
Okay.
And you do this over and over, and sometimes you have an idea where you're like, oh, it's worth a try, and you do it, and then that's the one.
Is there within small businesses a fear of failure that people try to avoid failing rather than realizing actually you do need to fail from time to time?
I'll tell you that I believe so strongly in what you just said that my 4th book is probably going to be called Failure Way to Success.
Right.
Because I'm basically a professional failure.
Right.
So I fail at everything. But I believe in failure. I mean, I think failure is critical. I think failure is the essence of greatness.
Right.
Is the people who are willing to try. Because what are you doing when you're failing? You're going past your area of confidence.
Right. What one activity would you recommend that an SME never outsources.
It's the essence of the voice.
Right.
Even the big companies today are literally tripping over themselves trying to act like little companies,
Okay.
which is really fascinating because social media caters to the individual voice.
Right.
Social media, and by the way, this is another thing we have this very much in America, and it's happening across the world, is that people have a growing distrust of big anything.
Right.
Big government, big business, big organizations. There's this simmering distrust,
Right.
And so even the big like for example Ford, the car company Ford, has like a single person, one person who's their face on Twitter. Right. It's a company that has perhaps 250,000 employees,
Sure.
but they have one customer, so or one public face.
In your book, Marketing Shortcuts for the Self-Employed,
Yeah.
you offer a suggestion that some people might find a little bit controversial, that content is no longer king.
Yeah.
Could you just maybe explain a little bit more about your thinking in that direction?
You read my book.
I've read part of the book.
I appreciate you reading part of my book. So this is something I've had probably more feedback about this one chapter than any other. So you've hit the same, it's a common thread. So, and again, this is something that's been studied. So the question is, you've got two things. You have content and you have community engagement. Well, the fact is, if you have content but no community engagement, nobody knows it's there.
Right.
Nothing happens. This could be the best content in the world,
Right.
but nobody knows it's there. And this is a very common problem.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's other companies that are seen as the market leaders, but they absolutely don't have the best quality product.
Right.
And why is that? It's because their marketing strategy is better. And marketing strategy in social media terms is community engagement.
Okay.
So my feeling is that you have to have marketing for sure, but community engagement is even more important.
Right.
So I put them like this, where the community engagement is first, because you can start with community engagement and virtually no content
Right.
and already get some traction.
Right.
And then you add content to the mix, and that's where the real power is.
Okay. To what extent do you also need to monitor all this traffic going on in and around your
Yeah.
digital presence?
This, by the way, is relates to my favorite part of business, which is just simply calibration. I mean, constantly, but you run up against the same obstacle that we all have, which is time. We're talking about analytics data.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of business intelligence platforms and analytics. Even just Google Analytics is extraordinarily powerful. Even Facebook Insights for your page is powerful. YouTube has very interesting analytics. In fact, my YouTube analytics, when I first started speaking about social media and technology, my instinct was to act like a young person. And then I looked at my YouTube stats, and it turned out that the biggest part of my following was 35 to 44 and 45 to 54.
Right.
That was where my audience was, and I was targeting 25 to 34,
Sure.
but I wasn't getting them.
Okay. If you had to choose 3 out of the 4 of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, which one would you drop? Which
one would I
three
drop?
which 3 do you think would offer the best return for you?
Which would I keep? That's fascinating. What type of company are we? Well, let's say as a general rule. Let's say as a general rule, and I'm sure that I may get criticized for this. I would drop Twitter.
Okay.
I would drop Twitter.
I think that a lot of people might actually agree with you on that. By the way,
I mean, Twitter is there's an opportunity in Twitter because it's not that difficult to build a following.
Right.
And so you can build a following which looks impressive sometimes. But the truth is, these people could be all around the world.
Sure.
They may have virtually nothing in common.
Right.
And it just becomes, maybe I won't elaborate too much on it, but I would drop Twitter. I think Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn are enormously powerful platforms. There's one you didn't mention, and it's actually my favorite.
I was going to say, what else would you add in?
YouTube.
YouTube.
I mean, for me personally, YouTube has been, of everything I've done, my blog has been the most effective.
Right.
And combining my blog with YouTube videos, so I embed videos inside the blog.
Right. If you were to come back in a year's time and give another presentation,
Yeah.
what would you like to have seen changed here in Bahrain?
I would like there to be success stories right here in Bahrain. I don't care what the industry is.
Right.
Because when you hear about a success story that happened in America or in Amsterdam or in Taipei, I mean, the stories are great. People love the stories and they learn from the stories, but it seems so distant that there's still this human instinct to say, oh, it could never work for us. Do we really want to invest it? This worked in Taipei. Taipei is very different than Bahrain.
Sure.
And so you have all these excuses because you don't want to risk failure. Right? But eventually someone tries something that works right here. And so now you have a situation where people are like, that guy's just down the road.
Right.
And he's transformed his business using this.
Thank you, Patrick, for your time today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
Safe trip back to America.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again in the not too distant future.
I hope so too. Thank you very much.